back to Comedy or Worse. I'm here with my very special guest,
Denise Vasquez.
Yay!
Yay!
So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, nice. It's very great to have you. So do you use a stage name?
Just my name, Denise Vasquez.
Oh, okay.
Years ago, when I was doing stand-up, when I was doing political humor, and I dressed as the Statue of Liberty, I used to call myself Nasty Niecy. But now I'm going out as myself. So.
All right. Cool. Sweet. So how did you get into comedy?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say when I was a child, my mom would bring me to Central Park in New York City. I grew up in New York City, and we would see Robin Williams there miming. And that had a huge impact on me, on my life. And my mom was always taking us to theater and to comedy shows and to galleries. And my mom's best friend, who basically was like my second mother, loved George Carlin, who's one of my favorites. So growing up with people who were always listening to comedy and music definitely was the start of me having an interest in it. And I started performing in New York when I was 4 years old as a tap dancer on stage.
That's cool.
And I fell in love with the stage. I knew I was home when I was on stage. And in the 90s, I auditioned for a group directed by Joy Newman in New York City called the Grown Ups Playground. And they had shows every Saturday at the New York Comedy Club. And that was the start of me doing comedy, improv. And then I got into another sketch comedy group, and I got into doing sketch comedy. And I was like, okay, there's a difference here. But I was a little scared as a teenager, like not confident, very insecure. There's a lot going on in the family. So I waited years before I developed the courage to try stand-up.
Yeah.
And I started hitting mics in LA and Los Angeles. I've lived in so many places over the years. In 2013, and decided the best approach would be to study with teachers so that I would go out not like, what am I doing, kind of having structure. And so I studied with David Arnold, who, rest in peace, he was amazing as a teacher, as a writer, as a performer, and studied with him at the Ha Ha Club in LA, and then studied with Jerry Corley more on the writing side, because I love to write too. So that's the short version.
All right, sweet. So once you started doing comedy, did you get addicted to it, or?
I would say yes. I have music background, so I sing and play guitar too. So for a while, I was like incorporating like all my talents, whether doing act outs with acting and music, and I found it addicting because it was a great way to showcase my talents and my skills and not have to sit around and wait for somebody to give me an opportunity to go out and to show people what I was capable of doing. So there is a little excitement in that you have control over how much you want to work out and how many mics you want to hit and what kind of material you want to write and what kind of characters you want to create. And it became addicting. I was like doing 4 years from 2013 to 2017, hitting mics or shows every night. Every night.
That's cool. So did you take a break, or?
I'm going to take a sip of water for that question.
I don't know. I'm just asking because you said
no. That was a good question. Because a lot of people were like, "What happened? Where'd you go?" I kind of disappeared. In 2017, I was living in San Diego, working for a company. No need to mention who it was, but I ended up getting hurt at work and ended up in a wheelchair for 3 years. That's a short version of the hell I went to hell and back. But I got a great lawyer here in San Diego. She got me into a great program with the Institutes of Health, and it took me years to get back on my feet, but now I'm standing up literally. So thank you, everybody at the Institutes of Health here. Amazing program for nutrition and mental health and physical health, because I believe in the mind-body connection. And I'm standing up literally now.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So what is your writing process for comedy?
Well, I usually carry index cards with me. I'm like old school. I love Joan Rivers, and I love her technique of writing out jokes on index cards, because then I can mix up my set and see which flows better in which order. I carry a notebook with me. I like writing like from my mind to the pen to the page. I find that it kind of allows things to flow and it kind of stays with me. And sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I'll jot things down on my notes on my phone. But usually it's things that I see, things that I experience, things that I hear people say. So be careful what you say around me. No. But basically life, right now it's taken me years to find the humor in the trauma that I went through. So I believe that the best comedy is when you're writing from your point of view and your experience in your life, and finding the humor in what you experience in life. So that's pretty much what I do.
Okay. But is everything just written on paper and index cards, or do you save it to the computer? Or?
Sometimes I save it to the computer. Sometimes I have it on my notes on my phone. But I like writing it out and printing it up. And
but aren't you afraid that it's going to get lost?
I have index card files from years ago, so I haven't lost anything yet. Knock on wood. But but it's mainly in here and in here first, and so having things in my phone and I do have stuff in the computer, but I like writing things down. It stays with me that way.
Okay, I've lost notebooks and such, so I would recommend getting it to the cloud.
Yeah.
But what about do you record your sets?
Yes. So sometimes I record it audio. Sometimes, like last night, I had my little tripod set up and I record the video. Especially when I'm doing new material, I want to just sometimes see what flows and what I'm doing. I don't like censoring myself while I'm on stage. I kind of like to see what comes or what flows or what comes or how people react. I find recording the sets is really important, because I may think that a joke is funny or a joke's not funny, but it's really how the audience reacts to the joke that determines, like, okay, this joke is always getting laughs, so this joke is solid because this one's always getting laughs. This one, hit or miss. So I try my material in front of different audiences, older audiences, younger audiences, ethnic audience, diverse, even in front of some disabled people. And so I try my material to see which jokes always get laughs, and the only way for me to know that is by recording my sets.
Right, for sure. All right, cool. So who's the funniest person in your life right now?
In my life right now, it's probably my partner, Randy Martinez. I've been with him for 18 years, so the biggest secret in our happiness as a couple is just we make each other laugh, and we're both creative people, and we love the arts and comedy and music, and laughter is the best medicine, like they say.
Super cool. You've moved around a lot. Have you done comedy in a lot of cities, or?
I grew up, I was born and raised in New York City, and I left home when I was 17. And the first place that I moved to was Edinburgh, Scotland. And a lot of people are like, why have you lived in so many places? Like, people think I'm military or a trust fund kid or a narc or FBI or CIA, but I'm just a creative person that wants to see as much of the world as possible. And I've worked hard my whole life, and when I first left home, I got a work exchange and wanted to travel, and I was working at a summer camp with all these counselors from overseas, and I was like, how'd you guys do it? And so they told me about this program, and at the time I was a student, so I was able to get my work permit and through the program, and I recommend everybody travel. I wish there was like a program in high school that would, send people to travel somewhere, because it really opened my mind. and helped me see the world. And to me, like, you know, I knew I couldn't do comedy until later in life because I wanted to have more to say and more to share and more experience, like in living. And so when I was in Scotland, I was just working and traveling and trying to see as much as I could. Then from Scotland, I went back to New York. I was doing comedy and music and acting. And when I moved, the next place I moved to was the Virgin Islands. I lived on St. John in the U.S. Virgin Islands for almost 8 years. And while I was there, I was doing music, I was doing acting, I was doing comedy. Sometimes like jobs would come through, which I was very fortunate. But I would create opportunities and create shows, and I created music festivals down there because there wasn't anything going on. So I'm like, I'm going to create something. And so that's one of the things I always try to encourage people is like, if there's not an opportunity for you that you can't find, to go out and create your own opportunities. And there's I think a place for everybody, and sometimes you have to create your own place, you know, for yourself. And so from the Virgin Islands, I moved to LA, lived in LA for 17 years, and I was doing acting and music in LA and comedy. That's where comedy really, stand-up really started for me, was in LA. There was so many places, so many mics and so many clubs, and I really wanted to showcase, like I said, myself as a writer, as an actor, as a comedian, and then I incorporated my music. And then when we moved down here, so my man could be closer to Comic-Con, I was working as a photographer, and that's where I got hurt, and everything went, you know. But here I am. That's the short version.
All right. So when did you move to Las Vegas?
So from San Diego, once I got back on my feet, I wanted to go somewhere quiet so I can like heal and recover and, you know, practice standing up again. So we moved to Joshua Tree for a couple of years in Yucca Valley. And then from there, we wanted to get back to like reality. And my boyfriend needed a place where he had access to an airport, because in Yucca Valley, there's no airport there. And so we kept taking trips to Vegas just to see. And I fell in love with the mountains and the Lake Mead. We kayak and we hike, you know, now that I'm on my feet a lot. And there's a lot of clubs there. There's a lot of opportunity. There's nightlife if you want it, but there's also quiet if you want it. So we've been there for a little over 2 years and love it. I miss San Diego though. Every time I come back here, I'm like, oh, it's bittersweet.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. So you do you wish you started comedy earlier, or you started at the right time?
I think I started at the right time for me. Like I said, I started doing improv in the 90s in New York, and I would go watch my friends do stand-up, and I was like, there's no way. There's no way. I was too insecure. There was a lot going on in my family, and I knew I had to do some soul searching with myself, discover what my point of view is, because I knew I wanted to do stand-up when I was a teenager, but I knew I had work to do on myself before I was able to go out and present like who I am. If I don't know who I am, then how am I going to go out and present my point of view as a comic, as a comedian?
Yeah, well, that's interesting, because like, you know, I haven't done a lot of improv, but I took a workshop, and it seems like you can be very vulnerable in that too.
Yes.
I mean, even though there's other, you know, people involved.
I just felt safe like doing improv. I had a really good director. Her name was Joy Newman, and all the people in the group that, you know, we had to audition to get into her group, and I just felt safe. And which is really important when you're doing improv, is to really trust, you know, the people in your group. Right. And felt safe with them. And then when I was doing sketch comedy, it was a female group and incredible writers, and I felt safe with them. And once I was in LA in 2013, I would go and watch my friends who were pretty big comedians, and like Donnell Rawlings, I've known him for a long time, and I would go watch him perform, and I'd be like, oh my God, I need to be on that stage. And that's when I knew, like, every time I would go to a comedy club and I was like, oh, I need to be on the stage. I felt inspired, but there was something else pulling me saying, just try it. And from the moment that I tried my first mic, I wrote a 3-minute set and went to all these mics and practiced. And one of my friends was like, okay, you have a month, I'm going to book you at Flappers. And I was like, oh my God. So I started hitting all the mics, and this is before I took a class, and I kind of didn't know what I was doing, but I kind of did. And put together a quick set, and from the first show I was like, this is what I want to do. And I knew I was ready. I knew, like, mentally, spiritually, I knew who I was. I knew what my point of view was. I didn't have any hang-ups about, oh my God, who am I going to offend in my family? Like, you can't. I feel like, the best comedians are the ones, like, I watched George Carlin's evolution from beginning to the end, and I love, his last stuff that he did before he passed. And to me, that was part of his evolution, his growth, his life, his experience. And to me, I feel like the more I do it, even looking back at old videos that I have on the computer, I'm like, oh my God, I've come so far, and I still have a long way to go, but I can see the growth, and that's within myself too,
That's cool. So what are your goals in comedy?
Whew, I have a lot. I was working on towards my 1-hour special before I got hurt, so that's one of my goals, is to get an hour of tight material. One of my goals is to put out, I have 3 albums of music, me singing and playing guitar, no comedy, just regular music on iTunes and Apple Music. So I want my 4th album to be comedy related, and maybe some songs in there too. I just have to get used to holding my guitar again, because when you're in a wheelchair for a long period of time, people don't realize your muscles atrophy. So I have atrophy all up and down my left side, and so getting used to like holding that guitar again, it's like I want to stand up because I like to feel the flow going through me as I play. So I've practiced like 2 songs so far, so that's one of the things. One of my goals is to be able to sing and play, the way I used to end the set with like music, and then tour and get paid, and maybe write for Seth Rogen or with Seth Rogen, I should say. He's doing really well, and I love his style of comedy. And I don't know if you saw the studio. So far I got to work a little bit on that, but I would love to be like one of the writers on the show too. Like, I would be happy if I got hired as a writer on SNL, or working with someone like Seth Rogen or Dave Franco, or who knows what's going to happen with late night. That used to be one of the goals, but everything's like changing in the world so rapidly. So
cool. So what is your favorite joke right now? Could be anybody's joke.
It's so funny because today trending was a South Park. And I have a South Park room key for my hotel, so the latest episode, I would say, the whole episode is pretty funny, and it's political, and it's funny, and it's relevant, and I just love comedy that's real, that's not duplicating what anybody's doing, that's authentic, that I don't get hung up on people's opinions, because everybody's entitled to their opinions, and I still believe in freedom of speech. But yeah, that's probably that. And then I love Bill Burr. I watched his special and I was laughing from beginning to end. And I don't have a particular joke. I just like the particular theme and story and the comics, and yeah.
All right, cool. So do you have like a favorite fan interaction? Either someone was a fan of you, or you were a fan of someone else?
Favorite fan interaction. That's a good one. One of my favorite fan interactions, actually recently, I was auditioning for Behind the Comedian, and one of my fans showed up who saw me at hosting another show at a bar. She has a disabled daughter who she brought down to my audition, and the front row of my audition was like a lot of disabled people. And so what meant the world to me and shows me that I'm on the right path with what I'm doing is that disabled people are thanking me for making them feel heard, for talking about, a topic that not everybody wants to talk about or hear. And for me, like, some people think that when I talk about like my disability and my comedy, that it's a part, like it's an act, it's not real, because they see me standing, and people don't realize that I live with invisible disabilities, and so I'm trying to find ways to find the humor in that too. I don't want to educate people, but I do want to inform people through comedy, through humor, through entertainment, and so that fan telling me that I'm making a difference is huge to me, because when I first got hurt, I started a project in 2017. I was going to the national parks, and my partner was pushing me in the wheelchair because I wanted to be out in nature because it was healing to me. And I noticed a lot of the parks that said they were accessible weren't. And so I started a project to try to bring awareness, and it made a big difference. So I'm trying to do the same in comedy. I'm not just going out there talking off my head. Like, I'm really sitting down and thinking about what I want to say, because I'll never get on stage without having something important to say, whether it's through music or through comedy. That's just me.
All right, cool. So what's your favorite place to do comedy?
Well, since I've been back in LA, I love Flappers Comedy Club. That was my home before I got hurt, and started performing there from 2013 to 2017. And not only did I work my way into getting booked regularly, but they believed in me so much because I understood how important it was to promote and how important it was to be professional. And so they believed in me enough to allow me to produce my own shows, and they were really successful. And so I'll never forget that. I'll never forget their trust in me, and it grew so much that they moved me into the main room, and the shows would be packed. And so now that I'm starting up comedy again, I went back there, and they're booking me again. So to me, it's like finding the right place for me that really supports comedians, that really, supports your growth. And I love it here. I didn't have the opportunity to come to Madhouse when I lived here, and it was in the Horton Plaza when I lived here. It wasn't even here. So I remember when I was getting back on my feet, I was like, oh, stairs. I have jokes about stairs because it's traumatic for me. But I went up to the Yellow Door the other night, and I love that stage, but the stairs getting up there
was... Well, you can take the elevator.
Oh, so. See, I didn't know there was an elevator.
You got to go into the Mexican restaurant to get to the elevator, but there is the elevator.
That's good to know. See, for tonight, if I go by there. But... I love this venue, and I love the Yellow Door. That stage is beautiful. But the Comedy Store, I performed a lot over the years. Flappers is definitely my home, though. Nice. Like they say, if the home is where your heart is, it's Flappers. And then in New York, for me, it's the New York Comedy Club, because that's where I started improv. And then when I decided I was ready to go back to New York to do stand-up, I had booked all these shows at the Broadway Comedy Club and the Greenwich Village Comedy Club, but the New York Comedy Club was one of my best shows ever, because I felt like I was preparing my whole life for those shows. And so New York, it's New York Comedy Club, because that's where I started, and that's where I ended before I got hurt.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think last night was the first time we met in person at the Yellow Door, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. Sweet. So...
I loved your set, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love yours as well. So what was your family life growing up?
Well, I was raised by a single mother she's incredible. She raised my sister and I by herself, and very strong woman, very independent, very supportive of me being an artist and a creative person, and always taught us like whatever you want in this life you have to believe to achieve. And she showed us, she didn't just tell us, she showed us like, you know, she led by example, which is really important to me. It's like you could say whatever you want, but unless you're like actually, you know, putting things into action, like she showed us like, you know, with the writing things down and with like having goals and the importance of, you know, having a destination to where you want to be. And, you know, she always wanted a better life for us. So she always worked hard. Like, you know, I remember her being like working all the time and in school because she wanted to provide a good life for my sister and I. And so I think having a good, solid foundation is so important. It's not the end all be all, but when you have, like I was having this discussion with my man the other day, I was like, you know, if you have a good, solid support system, it makes life a little bit easier, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Nice.
So I feel lucky to have my mom. She's still around. She retired and moved to Puerto Rico and from New York City, and she was like working in hospitals, had a high stressful job. Yeah, she moved down there when my grandparents were ill and took care of them, and she decided to stay down there. She has a big, beautiful house, and she's very happy in her garden.
Super cool. Nice. So what's your earliest memory?
Ooh, my earliest memory was probably me sitting on the stairs singing Donna Summer as a kid. At the top of my lungs outside the building. That's the first thought that just came to me when you said that. But I used to love, like as a kid, like drawing. My mom like was an artist and a painter, and she always gave us crayons, so she still has some of our drawings. So I remember drawing and writing, you know, as a kid. That's probably my earliest, but my favorite memory is singing Donna Summer on the stoop.
That's cool. So let's see. So what's the biggest audience you perform for?
That's a good question. Either I would say JediCon in Germany, because I sing and play guitar, so I've traveled internationally to perform my music. Yeah. So either JediCon in Germany, that was in Dusseldorf. Liverpool, I performed during Beatles Week in the home of the Beatles at the Cavern Club, and that place was like packed wall to wall. Performed in both rooms, and then at the NAMM show in Anaheim. Yeah. Cool. And then for comedy, probably at Flappers in the main room so far to date.
All right, sweet. So what's your best booking story?
Oh, okay. I have a good one because I find that I'm 56 years old, and I find that a lot of the young comedians get so caught up on how many people are in the audience, who's not in the audience. There's nobody here, especially when they go to mics. And one of my favorite stories was I got booked as a musician. It was a Sunday night in Hollywood at the Coconut Teaser, which is no longer there, downstairs in this small room called Coconut Teaser. It was probably about this size, and it was a Sunday night. I was the last one to go on at 11:30, and there was 3 people in the audience, and I performed as if I was singing my heart out to a stadium, because if I'm on stage, I'm performing with 200%. You know, I don't care if there's nobody in the room. I don't care if there's one person in the room. I'm going to perform 200%. I want my, you know, energy to be consistent. Not just the words, but the energy, I think, is important to be consistent. And so I sang my heart out, and it just so happened that those 3 people were scouts looking for one more act to take to Cozumel, Mexico for this huge festival with all these amazing musicians from Austin, Texas, and all over the United States. So I was the last person they took on that event. So
see, everybody, don't worry about how many people are in the audience.
You don't know who that one person is. You don't know who who's in the audience. You don't know if it's a booker, if it's a manager, if it's an agent, if it's somebody looking for a writer, or so I always try to encourage the younger kids, number one, to dress your best, to be your best, to make sure that, you know, when you're talking to someone, to be nice to everybody you meet, because you don't know who you're talking to. To perform your best even when you don't feel like it. It's important to get used to that, because there's been times where I've been sick as a dog and I've had to, you know, perform. And even like when I auditioned for Behind the Comedian, I didn't tell anybody. I was sick as I had a stomach flu, and I didn't care. I was like, this is my chance. This is my opportunity. I'm going to do my best and give 100%. And, you know, and especially when you love what you do, it doesn't matter like how many people are in the audience. Like, to me, the fact that I'm standing up again, literally, and that I'm able to get out and share, you know, my love and my passion with people, that to me is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then if I can share the laughter or make somebody feel seen, or then it's even better, you know. And then, you know, people are caught up in getting paid, and I think, you know, if you work on your craft and you respect the craft and respect yourself and respect the venues, and it'll come, you know.
Right.
You have to do the work though, and you know, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So you moved around a lot, but where did you grow up?
I was born and raised in New York City. And so I lived in the Bronx till I was 11 years old, and then my mom moved us to Roosevelt Island, and it was closer for her for work, and lived there till I was 17, and then took off and went to Scotland. But like, I went to school in Manhattan, went to high school for the humanities, went to Hunter College, and then took off and started traveling. And once I got that travel experience of seeing the world and getting on a plane and seeing different cultures and experiencing different cultures, and you know, seeing things in person and realizing that there's a big world out there, I wanted to, like, to this day I still want to see more. That's why I love coming down here to San Diego, because you meet people from all over the world coming here.
Definitely. It's cool. So what's the worst thing about comedy right now?
The worst thing about comedy is just probably the little cliques, you know. There's these little cliques where they isolate people, or they don't book people if you're not part of it. It's almost like cultish, where they don't book people that are not part of their cult. And to me, it's like, I've always been a free spirit, and I go from place to place, and my focus is so intense that I work on my craft, and I don't get involved in like the drama and the cliques and the cults and the, you know, he did this or she said this, and I have goals. So when I'm focused on my goals, I'm not worried about like all the negativity and toxic energy that could exist. And there's some places that won't book women. That's like an old like complaint of mine, which led me to creating and producing my own show. I called it What Plus Men for Applause. And so I would book predominantly women, and then I would book, you know, a couple of guys. But the fact that, you know, I still go to shows and it's like I'm the only woman on the show, is probably my biggest pet peeve, because there are talented women out there. I saw a bunch last night, you know what I mean? And even in Vegas and in LA, it's like I know so many female comedians that are amazing, and they really work on their craft. And you know, it's I wish there was equal opportunity in the field, and you definitely see more and more women coming out now than, you know, when I first started in 2013. And even when I was a kid growing up, it was comedy was a male dominated scene. And so I like that there's people trying to provide safe places for women. Like, I love that here. I've never seen that before. So I love that Madhouse Comedy Club put all the women up first last night.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, downtown, it's not a safe place.
And I appreciate that. And so not a lot of people think about things like that. Like providing a safe place for women is huge. You know, whether it's at an open mic, whether it's at a show, like, you know, safety first, you know, is another issue, which I appreciate the Madhouse for doing that. Thank you.
Yeah. That comes from the top all the way down. Yeah. So have you ever been in a car accident?
Yes. I like kind of relived it in my mind, but yes. Years ago. It was probably surreal and crazy and weird. It like everything slowed down almost like in slow motion, and I could like see everything happening as it was happening, but there was nothing I could do because there was like a car in this lane and a car in this lane, and then a car like ran a light and then stopped in front of my car, and so I hit it, and the airbags went off, and that was the last thing I remembered.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then I found out the hard way that they deliberately hit me to make a false claim on a different car. But that took some digging. Yeah. So be careful out there, because I didn't realize that that was a scam that people pull. Like people deliberately hitting people and then making claims on different cars. I was like, I didn't know that. Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's an interesting question. What made you ask that one?
Just one time someone talked about a car accident, so I'm like, okay, let's throw that in there, you know?
Yeah, it was weird. It was like probably one of the weirdest experiences I ever had, like just seeing time, like not standing still, but like moving, and it felt like I was in a movie, like everything was moving in like slow motion. It was crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's when you realize you don't have a superpower, because if you did, it would have manifested itself right there.
You feel like, but at the same time, like it was weird because I was talking to my boyfriend about this the other day. I felt like you kind of realize that you're not in control of every second of your life. Like, you know, so when you realize that, like I felt like kind of like at peace and a freedom of letting go and like not being in control, and it kind of faces you with that. Like, you know, you try to be in control of everything in your life, but really we're not in control of anything. And I realized that when I ended up in the wheelchair getting hurt here in San Diego was, number one, how precious life is, how every moment matters, how, you know, you can choose to be happy or choose to be stressed out, and the choice is, that's what we're in control of. Like we have the gift of choice to choose like our happiness. And so you can take the present moment is the only thing we're in control of, and use that moment to do what you love and to follow your passion and to be happy, or you can stress the hell out. And I rather, you know, now that I'm back on my feet, and it's like I've always appreciated life, and probably why I've accomplished a lot of my goals is when you're positive and professional and you appreciate every moment and you use every moment to like pursue your happiness, your passion, your love. I feel like that's what we can control.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. So how did you work your way out of a wheelchair?
Well, it starts up here. It starts with the will to want to live the life that I had imagined. I wanted to get back to living. I was not content with just being in a wheelchair and sitting at home and collecting a social SSI or disability, and I that was not enough for me. I had a life I wanted to get back to. So the power of the mind, I truly believe, is an incredible gift that we all have. And so, you know, believe to achieve has always been my motto, my way of being and living. And so that was the beginning of me going, okay, first I tried to go back to work where I got hurt, and that was not a good idea. And then I found a lawyer and explained to her everything that I had went through for the first year. She's like, oh, no. So she helped me because workers' comp took too long. My job took too long. Insurance took too long. So I developed atrophy. I didn't have physical therapy for almost 2 years, which caused more issues than I had. And so I have CRPS, which is a permanent disability, chronic regional pain syndrome, which is, they call it the suicide disease. And the people, at the insurance company and my job and workers' comp, like, they kept giving me pills, and I'm not a pill person. I'm like, I'd rather be in pain than get addicted to pills. Like, that's a whole nother issue. And so I talked to my lawyer, and I'm like, I believe in mind-body connection. And she's like, I have the program for you. And so I had to go and get interviewed, like an audition, to get into this program. And they loved my energy, and they believe that I could walk again, because if you don't believe that you can do it, you're not going to do the work that it took me to do to get back on my feet with the program. So the Institutes of Health here in San Diego is the best program that it's one of the best things, I hate to say it, that happened to me in life, but it is. It was crazy because I got approved, and I was about to start the program, and then COVID hit. But I was like, welcome to my world, to all my friends who were like complaining. And so we did everything virtually, I was like, how is this going to work? So they gave me a laptop, and there were other people in the program with brain injuries and back injuries and knee injuries. And we had a schedule like every day, and everything from nutrition on how to, cook again, and how to, because people don't realize when you don't move and you're not mobile, your whole body, your system shuts down. So I had to relearn how to sit up and how to stand up and how to hold a fork and how to, cook and how to walk. And I had 3 nutritionists, so they taught me about anti-inflammatory foods, and they would send me groceries and explain, I didn't know anything about anti-inflammatory foods, so this was like educational, And then I had 3 different.
What's an example of anti-inflammatory?
So turmeric is a herb that a lot of people don't realize is anti-inflammatory. So if you have like flare-ups, I have flare-ups constantly in my left foot because I have an Achilles tendon injury that my tendon tore, but they didn't want to do surgery, so they left it, and then my tendons got infected. But that's a whole nother story. So once in a while, my tendons will swell up, and that's where pain comes from. Is like this swelling, like this pain that I can't even describe. But anyway, turmeric is like one of the best anti-inflammatory foods, and so sometimes I'll put it in a tea, sometimes I'll put it in juice, sometimes I'll put it in my foods, and it really, really, that's like one of my favorite anti-inflammatory foods that I use. And then in the program I had 3 mental health specialists because they did a number on my mind. And so I felt like the way I described it was I felt like my mind was over here, my body was over here, my spirit was over here. So the program helped me kind of bring everything back and center, myself. And so I picked like one mental health therapist. Her name was Luna, like the moon. She was amazing. I could feel her energy through the screen. I can't even describe it. And then I had Feldenkrais, which is a German technique. The woman who taught that, she was a lot of the people in the program, was interesting. The therapists, I think, were all ballet dancers. And so they probably all got injured and probably like studied. And so Feldenkrais was another technique that I learned. And so they tried all these different techniques on me to see how my body would respond and what I would respond to. And one of my favorite techniques that I responded to was the Alexander technique that I learned in Strasbourg in New York years ago. And I felt like my body recognized, like my body was like, I know that. And so that was how I started standing up and sitting down, and standing up and sitting down was like body, like awareness and movement was Alexander technique. Okay. And then meditation. Huge factor in my daily life. That's one that I meditate while I'm sitting, I meditate while I'm walking, I meditate even sometimes on stage, like with breathing and being aware of my movements and motion. And yeah, meditation is probably the big one for me. Like sometimes I just have to stop, I learned how to listen to my body through the program, which is something I never did before. Like being a New Yorker, it was like, go, 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 you know. Right. Like you don't stop no matter what. Your body's hurting, it doesn't matter. You got to go, 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 go. And so this program taught me how to really listen and pay attention and be aware. And if my body's saying, you're done, I'm done. You know, so meditation and art therapy, which was one of my favorite, expressing like my feelings and my pain and my happiness and all my emotions through like art. And yeah, so it was incredible. And I learned how to take what works for me and use it every day. And so I learned stretches. Like when I finally did get physical therapy, I do stretches every morning and every night, like, because when I went home, when I walked back to the hotel last night, my body was like, ah! From, you know, being on my feet. And I made sure like to, you know, sit when I was at the clubs. And so I think, you know, the way to accomplish any goal is to really listen to your inner voice, not to push it away, and to believe in whatever it is you're pursuing, and to do the work, because it was a lot of work, and it still is. Like every day, like I fight to get out of that bed, I fight to get through that pain, I fight to get on stage, I fight. Like people have no idea, because they see me smiling and they're like, and walking, and they're like, oh, she's so nice, and they have no idea like the battles that I'm pushing through like constantly throughout the day to be here. But I'm here, and that to me is it's worth it, you know.
Yeah, that's great. Sweet. So let's see. Do you have any goals right now for music, or are you just focusing on comedy?
I think with music, I want to write some new songs and incorporate it into my set. And so I started writing a clean, and I want to write more clean material, because before I was doing kind of like blue comedy and adult comedy. And so when I got the audition for Behind the Comedian, it was like rated PG, you know, TV clean. And I was like, cool, this is a good challenge. This is a challenge that I wanted to do anyway, because I'd like to get on TV. So I've been having fun and enjoying the journey of rewriting material that I already had, or writing material that I never finished, or writing material based on what I went through. And then I want to write new songs based on, you know, what I've experienced over the last like 7 years, you know. And so some of my songs that I have, they're still there. Like I remember them. I picked up my guitar and I was like, oh, it was like falling off a bike. It came right back to me, you know. So yeah, I want to write more comedy songs, definitely. And then whatever else flows, like I learned a long time ago how to step out of my own way. Like we were talking about control, right? And sometimes we get in our own way where we want to, you know, write this kind of song, or do this kind of comedy, or write this kind of joke. And I learned how to step out of the way. So sometimes things just flow, even though, and it's been there. It's not like, oh, it magically came from nowhere. It's been, I feel like the best way to describe sometimes when I've written songs, it's been brewing, and then it's ready, and then sometimes it just flows. Sometimes I'll sit down and write, like for a song, a title, and it'll just come. And sometimes I have to rewrite and write and rewrite and think about it. So it's you know, with songwriting, it's sometimes the music comes first, and sometimes the theme comes first, and sometimes the story comes first. And one of the things I've been doing lately is taking my jokes and making sketches out of them. And so I've been having fun with that. I took a class in UCB before I got hurt, the sketch writing class. I did improv there in LA, but the sketch writing class was my favorite. And I was like, Lee Rubenstein was our teacher, and he was great. He was more like a director, like directing us about, you know, guiding us. And he treated it as if we were in a writer's room. So we would all bring in our sketches and, you know, take turns, like, you know, critiquing and adding stuff. And so I was like, wait, I'm going to try to, because, you know, you got to get back on the internet. You know, I was off the internet for 3 years, so now I'm rebuilding. My lawyer was like, you got to take everything down. So I'm rebuilding like all my social media, and I'm like, how do I want to put myself out there? So I've been writing, you know, sketches to showcase my writing, to showcase my comedy, to showcase my acting. It's like, whatever we want to showcase, the internet is a great platform. Like, we didn't grow up with the internet. I didn't have the internet when I was growing up, so I appreciate the internet. Some people get so mad, but I have a love-hate relationship with the internet.
Yeah. Sweet. So do you have any merch right now?
Not yet. I had some merch before I got hurt, so I've been thinking about, you know, what I want to put out there. And I'm paying attention again to what jokes, like, people like always get the big laughs, and I'm listening to, you know, my fans, and so thinking about it, and then I'm thinking about what kind of merch do I want to do, you know, when I'm ready to do that. Do I want to do t-shirts? Yeah,
stickers are always easy.
Yeah, stickers are the easiest.
Yeah.
True.
Stickers popular, just put it on a shirt.
Put it on a shirt or your water bottle.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Mm-hmm. See?
Probably worse on here. Yeah,
see, I'll talk to you after about where you get your stickers made.
Yeah. Sticky Brand, I think, is the...
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta deliver more of the stickers. I got some in my backpack, but
cool. They're
not going to do any good there.
Right.
Got to get them where they're needed. You know. Let's see. So you like the comedy scene in Las Vegas right now, right?
Yeah, I like it. It's different. LA is different. Vegas is different. New York is different. Here is different.
Sure.
So I'm getting familiar with it. I remember when I was in LA, it took me 5 years to really kind of, you know, establish myself at my home base. That's what I call Flappers. Like, and so one of my goals is to get like at least one comedy club in the different areas that I consider like my home base. Like, have one club here and one club in Arizona and one club in Vegas and one club in New York, even though I have more than one club that I like in different areas. But so I feel like I'm still, like, people are still getting to know me because, like I said, there's like tight-knit groups there. And I had performed in Vegas years ago from 2013 till I got hurt. I was performing in LA, New York, and Vegas. And most of the people who booked me in Vegas aren't there anymore. And a lot of the venues that I performed at aren't there anymore. So, like, I did comedy at the Hard Rock in a room called the Ainsworth in a lounge. And now it's like Virgin Hotel, and the lounge is like, I think, more music based. I went by and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then the LA Comedy Club used to be at Bolly's when I performed there. Now it's at the Strat. And so I feel like I'm kind of starting over, but there's some people who kind of remember me. Like, a gentleman just booked me at the Las Vegas Brewing Company, and he's like, I remember you from, you know, back in the day. And I was like, cool, you know. So it's kind of like I'm reintroducing myself to the Vegas scene and letting people get to know me. And I wouldn't say I'm starting over, but I am, but I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm starting over as far as like with the bookers and the clubs and, you know, which is okay. I mean, I'm still doing the work and I'm still putting myself out there. And like I said, I'm not sitting around waiting for the opportunities to come to me. I'm going out and hitting mics, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to LA, you know, and book a show there or two, and I'm going to come here, and, you know.
Yeah. Right.
I can't sit and wait. I'm not that type of person.
Yeah, for sure. So what's your favorite comedy scene?
I would say New York. There's so many comedy clubs and there's so many mics, and I like that you can hit, you know, so many mics in a night. It's like you go, like, I liked doing that last night even here and seeing the same comedians. It kind of reminded me of New York, and so I missed that with New York. You could hit 5 mics in a night, you know, easily. So I like that because I feel like the more mics that I hit, the more it becomes like you're not thinking anymore. I don't like thinking on stage. I don't like censoring myself on stage. I like when you flow and you have that rhythm, and so with Vegas you're lucky if there's one mic a night. You're lucky, and then I don't hit all the mics because I don't feel safe at all the mics. So yeah, it's unfortunate. That's why I said last night I really appreciate that you guys provide a safe space for women.
Yeah. Sweet. Let's see. So do you listen to any or watch any comedy podcasts right now? Or?
I'm gonna watch yours.
Thank you.
I like Amy Poehler's podcast. She just started a podcast not too long ago.
Okay.
I really like that. I like Spades, Fly on the Wall. I like Mark Maron. Those are my top ones right now.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, but I love it because it's kind of in the moment and raw and real and funny and whatever comes flows.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sweet. What about? Are you watching any comedy specials lately? Or?
I just watched Bill Burr's, which was hilarious. I love his point of view and how he's who he is. You know what I mean? I appreciate people. Like I said, authenticity to me is everything. George Carlin I can watch over and over and over and over again. And to me, it seems like more relevant now than ever. And I love his wordplay and I love his inflections. And I'm trying to think who else has a comedy special that I watched recently. Bill Burr. That's the only one I can think of.
That's fine. So do you watch any sitcoms or anything like that? Or
I like watching lately Apple TV. The Studio is one of my favorite, and I'm not just saying that because I worked on your show, but The Studio is one of my favorite series because the writing is just on point. It's hilarious. It's real. It's for anybody who's worked in the movie industry. It's people who worked in the movie industry are we get it. But also it's relatable to everybody, and it's showing you the realities that exist from a funny point of view. And the actors are great, and the writing was great, and the camera, work that they did, just flowing with the camera and not stopping on the takes, and that's one of my favorite shows. And then there's another show called Stick with Owen Wilson where he's a golfer. Okay. Great writing, great acting. That Mark Maron, so he's on that. Okay. He's so good as an actor. Maybe that's why he left his podcast to pursue acting more, because he's really, really good. So that, if you haven't seen it yet, I don't want to ruin the show for you, but it's fantastic.
Makes sense why I think it was number one. I'm okay, I'll
get
to it.
It's really, really good. I like movies and stories and whether it's music or TV shows or movies, I like good stories. I like good writing. I like, to me, words are so important. That's one of the reasons why I love George Carlin, because wordplay and everything that came out of that man's mouth had purpose, And so as a writer, when I'm writing my set, that's my aspiration, is to have purpose with my jokes and my storytelling and my act outs and to me, the best shows and the best specials and the best everything is it starts with good writing, good storytelling, good songs, good storytelling.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I just watched Billy Joel documentary. Only the first part is out right now.
Nice.
And it's okay, that's just very interesting. It's can't wait till the second part comes out. I think it's just going to be 2 parts.
There you go. I haven't seen Lana Turner's documentary, but she's been working on a documentary for a while, so I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Okay.
Yeah, I know her.
Nice. That's super cool. Nice. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to talk about today?
Just, for the younger comedians or any age comedians, it's never too late. As I mentioned, I'm 56. I'm not afraid to say how old I am, because for me, age is just a reminder of where we've been and where we are, and it's never too late. And if you have a dream, I always try to encourage people, like when people come up to me sometimes after a show and they're like, oh my God, I've always wanted to do comedy. I'm like, do it. Do it. Where should I start? Get on stage. If you don't feel confident about hitting a mic, take a class. Classes to me, I highly encourage taking a class. I studied with David Arnold, who was incredible as a writer, as a performer, as a teacher. He gave us structure. He gave us confidence. He gave us, he had us watch the Jerry Seinfeld. I highly, 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 highly recommend taking a class. And then with Jerry Corley, who I studied with, his side was more writing and clean comedy and TV writing. And, he set up a stage in his classroom so we can practice. So, not everybody's a classroom type comedian. So but if you like classroom, now you can even do it over in the internet. There's a lot of teachers that do classes online, but I recommend getting on stage and just hitting a mic and trying it out. And a lot of mics encourage new people. There's one mic I was hosting on and off, and they left the room for first timers, to come up and even if it was saying one joke, to come up and say one joke on stage, and I encourage everybody to, whatever it is in life that you want to do it. Life's short, life is precious. The only thing we can control is our happiness in this moment, and do what makes you happy. Do what you love what you do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd also tell everybody to get together with a writing group. Either join a writing group or form your own. Just each person tells a joke and then people give feedback, and it's kind of like an informal classroom, kind of thing where you don't even have to pay money.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. It's helpful.
And find a mentor. If you have a comedian who you love, who is successful or doing the style of comedy that you would like to do, to find a mentor and ask, if they would mentor you, and don't copy people's comedy. There's not cover comedy, there's cover songs. I've seen a lot of people taking jokes and just quoting them on stage, and it's if you do the work and you write from your heart and you go hit a mic and you talk to other comedians and you find a mentor and you take a class, you'll find your way. It takes time. It takes, I look at Richard Pryor and Robin Williams and George Carlin and Mitch Hedberg and, who these guys, Sam Kinison and Andrew Dice Clay, who's coming back out on tour, and, the people that have done the work for years and years and years, and they're still not done. And even Steve Martin, when he finally stopped doing stand-up, it was because he had been doing it for so many years, and I watched his documentary. It was one of my favorites. Oh my God, the Steve Martin documentary, highly recommend it. But he was talking about how, people started quoting his jokes while he was on stage, and he knew he was okay, I don't have another 10 years to write a whole new set. So, he went into doing TV and films, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely. Also on the podcast, I try to encourage everybody to go see live comedy.
Yes.
In every form, stand up, improv, whatever it is.
And that's a good way to find what style of comedy you want to do, because there's so many different styles.
Sure, but also a lot of comedy comedy shows need audience.
Right. Absolutely.
We got lots of comics, not to try to discourage anybody from doing comedy. Do it if you want to, but also if you like comedy, go see live comedy. You don't even have to ever want to do it yourself. Just go see live comedy. That's what we need. We need live audience members.
It's true. If I lived here, I'd come here every day. I like the energy here.
Yeah, it's a great comedy scene for sure.
Yeah.
All right, I think we should wrap it up. It's a good amount of time.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
That was a great talk.
Nice. Okay, this has been Comedy or Worse. Okay, bye everybody.